entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Creatures of Habit podcast. I've got a really interesting guest on the show today. Her name is Monica Richards. She is the founder of Eco Babe. She is a sustainability expert. She's a sustainability expert. She consults on interior design, helping people live lives with as close to zero waste as possible. She really is moving the needle in the world of the environment and making better decisions on a daily basis to have less impact in a bad way on this place that we live in, that we want to live in forever. So I'm super fired up to talk to her about some habits that we could all implement into our lives that would make our garbage shrink, maybe, right? Other things that we can do to just be better human beings. A lot of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast is lifestyle habit. And if you can introduce some sustainability habits into your lifestyle, you are just going to be a better human. Monica, welcome to the show.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. Thank you.
I could just be your sidekick all the time.
Can we please?
Yes.
Although I'd be more like your sidekick. It could be equal.
Let's do it. So tell us a little bit about yourself before we kick off the sustainability stuff.
Sure. So I was raised on a farm. So my Eco Babe education began a long time ago. I was modeling. I graduated in interior design. So then I lived in London and LA. I lived in LA for 13 years, started off in interior design, then started pitching a show around Hollywood about sustainable interior design. And in these pitching rooms, they would be like, well, who do you envision to host the show? And I'm like, duh. And they would be like, you have zero credentials. So I started TV hosting classes. It's kind of like acting classes for a long time. I was a TV host in Hollywood for a while, like press junkets, red carpets. I hosted a fashion and beauty show for AOL for a really long time, a few years. Wrote and produced 4:30 in the morning, every morning. It was awesome. But then I started really wanting more to have more impact on the world instead of just talking about like Kim Kardashian's latest red carpet look, which is still fun. There's still value in that. But I just wanted to do something that got me a little more to my roots and brought me back a little bit. So then I launched Eco Babe. And it was originally a blog and a community. And now we're moving along. And I do a lot of zero waste workshops now for companies, groups, and communities, which is a great way to make impact to a lot of people at once. Those are virtual and in person. I'm still a TV host. I am the face of a solar company right now. That's cool. Which is like a dream job for me. They're a top 10 solar company. Wow. So I do all of their content and all of their, we have a solar education series that I host, which is really fun. I've learned a lot about solar, by the way.
I'm all about solar, brother. I'm like dying to bring solar into our lives. So I'm going to ask you about that.
Okay. Well, you can put me to the test. I might have to make a phone call, but no.
So sustainability is actually a pretty broad term, right? Like when people hear the word sustainability, they think of, a lot of people I think just think of better environment, right? The interesting thing is that sustainability is not only, you can apply or you can be more sustainable in any area.
Correct.
Cleaning supplies, furniture, solar, the food you eat, the materials you bring into your home across the board, travel, every single thing on the planet has some impact on the environment, right? And so I guess the question that I really want to ask is, if there were a few things that anybody listening right now can change in their day-to-day to bring sustainability or make sustainability more prevalent in their lives, can you give us a few habits that people can start to do?
I would start at base level, foundation level, and just become a conscious consumer and or a minimalist. Like the 3 questions that I always share with the communities that I teach to are, 1, do I really need this? So this is when you're shopping, ordering food, and as you're consuming products. So do I really need this? The second one is, can I reuse or repair this instead of buying new? And then the third question is, where does this go at end of life? How can I divert it from landfill? How can I recycle this? So keep those 3 questions in the back of your pocket just as you're going through daily life. And you'll notice that you don't buy as much, you don't consume as much. You're like having everything. So that's where I would start as base level and then go from micro to macro. So once you have like that base level foundation of becoming a conscious consumer, then you start making your eco swaps inside the home and like room by room, your beauty cabinet, and then you start graduating to different rooms, and then you're putting solar panels on your house, and then you're implementing a compost in your backyard, you know? So you just go micro to macro.
So is this, so like you get brought on to consult on a project.
Mm-hmm.
Does it kind of start that way, or do you go into someone's home and sort of take a tour and say, okay, this is what we're going to do?
Both. I find a lot of homeowners want to just have me do all the swaps. And I love doing that too. It's so easy for people because sustainability, because it's so broad, is so overwhelming to people, right? It's inherently overwhelming. And so when you're overwhelmed, you have a tendency to freeze and just not do anything and ignore the issue. So when I come in, I just do everything for that homeowner, and it's,
you know,
I wave my eco wand.
I've got to draw like a line to, well, I founded a company called Seymour's in 2015, sustainable seafood restaurant. And I brought to the market in New York City fish that no one's ever heard of. Why? Because it swims local to New York or to the northeast coast.
Yep.
It's totally underutilized and underappreciated, incredibly abundant, and nobody wants it here. It gets all shipped overseas. So I said, I am going to sell bluefish, blackfish, tautog, porgy, monkfish, like all the fish that nobody heard of. And people looked at me when I wrote this business plan. And they were like, dude, you are crazy. Like, what makes you think someone's going to walk into this restaurant and want to eat there? And I said, there's one word: sustainability. That's it.
Bravo.
I put sustainability on it. That was it, honestly. And we couldn't keep people out of the restaurant.
Isn't it amazing? I always find it interesting too. I live in financial districts, and I always see fishermen down at the pier. Like, what are they doing with these fish? And they sell them to local restaurants. But I just find it amazing that in this water that looks so dirty, it looks dirty. It looks dirty. Like the Hudson River looks dirty, right?
Sure.
There's so much boat traffic going in and out of it, and there's still abundant fish.
Well, the Hudson River, like the rivers, people aren't really fishing those rivers, although I will tell you that I've pulled some of the most incredible striped bass out of the East River and eaten them happily. But there is an enormous fishing industry from Maine all the way down the East Coast, like enormous. And the fish that it's so interesting that it's like anything else, and I don't want to get off on my stuff, but like tuna, halibut, salmon, cod, shrimp, crab, lobster, scallops are like the big 8. They were marketed well, just like Nike, Adidas, Apple, like there was a marketing strategy behind those species of fish. There was a lot of money pumped into it, and those fish rose to the top. Tautog, porgy, blackfish, redfish, like you got to imagine, right? Like it's so funny. Like you drive through a town. Well, like you drive through a town, right? You're in a town in the middle of nowhere. Like you see a restaurant. The restaurant's called like Bob's Restaurant. Like the fish that nobody wants, blackfish. Why did they call it blackfish? Because the fish is black, Bob's. Right? Like tuna's got like kind of an interesting name. Like like it's not like tuna like redfish, pinkfish. It's so there's like a whole. It's so interesting how the consumer mind works.
Yes,
it's so interesting.
Yes.
What about so what areas did you, when you started to really step into the world of sustainability, when you knew that like this was something that you wanted to do, where did you think you could make the most impact off the bat? First of all, do you Seafood Watch? Oh yeah.
Does your audience know about Seafood Watch?
Noah?
It's yes.
Yeah, of course.
Or no, from Monterey Bay Aquarium. Sure. So they have it's basically a website, and when you're ordering seafood and you're purchasing seafood, you can go in and plug in like salmon or tuna, and it automatically conjugates the most current sustainable breed of that fish. I just wanted to throw that out there since we were
100%.
talking about it. It's a really good resource I use all of the time.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be like a fish that's in the green, that's abundant and
Exactly.
sustainable. Then there's a yellow, and then there's like red. Stay away. Do not eat.
Yes. Don't eat that one. Leave that one alone. Yeah.
Although unfortunately, way more people eat the red stuff than we'd like.
Well, it's marketed well.
Yeah, exactly.
So I originally created EcoBabe, and with the viewpoint of and the perspective of building an audience who was interested in being conscious. And do you know what zero waste kits are?
No.
Like it's a kit that comes with like 5 or 6 products that are eco swaps, I call them, for your home, for instance. And I thought of this so long ago, and this is why I formed EcoBabe, because I wanted to build this beautiful community and then sell them the eco kits. And there's so many kits now.
So like what would come in an eco kit?
Yeah. Like dryer balls, glass straws, beeswax, things like that.
I love the beeswax stuff.
Same, but the brand beeswax is so much better.
Which one?
The actual brand beeswax.
Oh yeah, that's
I've tried
the one
other brands. Yeah, and they just don't like fold over your food.
It works so well. I had to convince my wife about those. She was like, "There's no way that works." I was like, "Trust me, I'm telling you." And the coolest thing about it is that you just like fold it up, put it back in the drawer.
Yep.
It's like all good.
And they're compostable end of life.
Oh really?
Yeah, fully compostable.
So aside from the 3 things that you said people can start thinking about, let's just apply it to like real life. And then I want to ask about your morning routine, because I do believe that, I want to talk about habits and just lifestyle in general.
Yeah.
But what are some things that people can do like today that could change their impact?
Sign petitions. It really works. There's been so many petitions. I have a reels on my Instagram right now that says I supported these climate bills and they just passed. Petitions work. They do. Also, you know what else works? Is calling your state Congress people and asking support for certain bills that you're interested in. State offices, whether it's the House of Representatives or the Senate, they literally count up the emails, the calls that they get, the voicemails, and that your voice counts. Like they count up how many votes basically for different matters that they're getting from the public, and it persuades their decision whether to move these bills through the House or not.
Like you say
really
that, like
works.
I'm hearing, it's so interesting. I was watching something recently, and this is like not really off topic, but it kind of shows where we're at as a society, that this would even be said. Right?
Okay.
It was like a documentary style film, and this person was walking through like a really depressed part of the country.
Okay.
Lots of homeless, just people that were really down and out. And the person that he was walking with was like, wow, this is like really sad that this is happening.
Yeah.
And the guy said, well, the even sadder part of this, or the most terrible part of this situation, is that these people have stopped consuming. And that is why they are in the position that they're in right now, because they are literally no longer consuming, and consuming the way the machine wants them to consume.
That's an interesting.
How crazy is that?
Yes.
Right. So like they stop consuming because they probably they don't have the resources to consume,
The means.
and they're just left to rot. And it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, like that really hit me in the chest.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second.
Absolutely.
So these people just stopped like shopping at, the supermarket or Whole Foods,
Right.
They stopped consuming, and now they're essentially done.
Right.
It's just like such a weird thing. So when you say,
Mind-blowing.
think about, do I need this? Or do I just want this? If I just want this, I'm not going to go for this. Where does this end up? Right? What percentage of stuff do you think ends up in a landfill?
Oh gosh. Okay. I have the percentages. I have so many numbers in these
Like
workshops
90%?
I host. It's like 85% of stuff basically.
Like, we just don't think about how insane that is, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess like the real sort of like tangible thing I'm asking is, what can we do to help change that? Forgetting about, because like if somebody's not a sustainability activist, chances are they're not going to go find a petition to sign and call up the state.
That's true. Yeah.
What are they going to like? What could be something that someone can do to be like, okay, like give yourself a habit to stick to. Like, if you buy 3 to 5 things a day, buy 1 or 2. You know, like something like that. Because I'm learning. I want to learn from you, because I just know that you're so good at, you've built a whole entire career on this.
Yeah.
And if we don't start thinking about it, like my grandchildren,
that's right,
are going to suffer severely if we're even still here. Right? So like, what's a few things?
Figure out what to do with your food scraps. This is huge. We waste 40% of food in America alone. During the holidays, it's like 65%.
Wow.
All goes to landfill. So there's a couple different ways that you can take care of your food scraps, even if you don't want to compost, because compost still has this like reputation of being a little hippy dippy. But you can make vegetable broth out of your food scraps. Like, all you do is you collect your food scraps in the freezer so they don't smell. There's nothing really to it. You just collect them in the freezer and you make a veggie broth out of it.
I love that.
Yeah, you can put everything in it. Onion peels, everything. The other thing that you can do is it's called a compost tea or compost smoothie. So you're still doing the same thing. You're putting your food scraps in the freezer, and then you have a mason jar. You put the food scraps, once it gets full, in a mason jar, and get a big mason jar, and then fill it up half with water, let it sit for a few days, like 5, cap on, and it turns into this like brown mush. Strain it. What comes out, your indoor plants will love. It's like a all natural fertilizer.
Wow.
They love it. Then you're left with this mush that you've strained. Throw that in the blender with more water. That's for your outdoor plants. They love it. You have to bury it so you don't get rodents if you're lucky enough to have a yard. But yeah, so there's ways that you can take care of your food scraps without having to compost. Obviously,
that is
compost is
cool.
like, yeah. And did you know that like around Friday we have these garbage bins that are for compost. It's right next to the regular trash. You download the app called Digi, D-I-G-I, and it tells you where these bins are. There's also like food scrap drop-off at so many farmers markets throughout New York. There's so many different ways that you can take care of your food scraps. You will take out your garbage. I take out my garbage. Granted, I don't have a family of children, but garbage like every other month, maybe I take it out.
You know, I got to tell you that like one of the coolest things, so I'm born and raised in New York City. I'm from this town. And, you know, we've been going to our house upstate since 2013. I love 95% of it. I fight through the winter because it's cold and gray, and once the snow falls, it doesn't go away.
Yes.
That was a rhyme. I didn't intentionally mean to do that. But one of the coolest things about being up there is we've got 11 chickens.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, so we had 14, lost a few along the way.
Yeah.
But our chickens in the wintertime they're not really interested much. Like, they don't go far from the coop, you know, and the run. In the spring, summer, fall, they're out. They're like running wild, you know. But in the wintertime, our compost goes to them. We literally...
They love it.
They love it. They love it.
So
and
awesome.
the coolest thing is that, like, if you have chickens, you know, I've learned so much about chickens since we've been up there.
Yeah.
But, like, the color of the yolk of the chicken is really... the deepness of the color is a good barometer of the quality of the food that they're eating. So like if your chickens are free range on your property and they're eating all sorts of wild things and blah, blah, blah. Grubs,
yep.
Like you're going to have, and ticks and all the things that they're eating.
They should be eating, yes.
Your yolks are going to be like orange red almost, you know? And even like we grow a lot of vegetables. So like they just get a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
and so
great.
our chickens are like, that the yolks are just like these beautiful I mean, it's just insane. So it's hard to tell people in New York or wherever, like, chickens are a great way for food for compost.
Pigs as well. There is a site, I believe it's called makesoil.org. It's if you Google, I really think it's called makesoil.org. But if you Google it, it connects you with local farms who will accept your food scraps for chickens, pigs. And I mean, I don't know what it is like in New York, but like in Santa Monica, there's tons of places nearby that you can go drop off all your food scraps to.
Oh,
and they
so
gladly accept them. Yeah, so you're still participating in like the local farm,
like
local
the
community.
people that are listening probably, like every person does count, right?
Yes. I wish, if I can grab, there's this paper towel example that I use all of the time, but I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. It's in my phone. It's something like this. Please don't quote me. But in America, every single year, we use it's an absurd amount of millions of pounds of paper towels each year. And if you think about the resources of the trees and the waters used for these paper towels, I know it's 51,000 trees are cut down every year for the paper towel usage in America. If each person reduced paper towel by one little sheet, the stat is something like we would save 571 million pounds of paper towels each year. It's something like that. But gosh. The point is, I might not be getting the numbers perfectly, but the point is that individual impact creates collective change. It creates huge collective impact and shifts. So everything that you do not only counts for yourself, but it counts as the collective whole. And it makes a huge difference. Look at the paper towels.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is, I remember,
millions.
thinking about ways to when I would do PR or whatever for Seymour's, trying to convince people to eat bluefish instead of salmon. Right?
Yes.
And because they carry somewhat similar properties, they're rich in omegas. They've got a fair amount of fat, both of them, and they're not like your typical whitefish, right? They're a little bit more oceanic. And so I don't remember the stat either, but it was like if you eat salmon twice a week.
Okay.
Which, anybody who is a fish eater, probably salmon's at the top of their list, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
So if you went from eating salmon twice a week to once a week, the shift in the terrible fish farms that were out there doing aquaculture, which I actually do believe into, there's people doing good things, but there is an enormous amount of people doing the wrong thing.
Yes.
There's an enormous amount of people doing the wrong thing with tuna. If you ate tuna one less time, the chances of bluefin tuna coming back into somewhat of a sustainable species are 5,000 times better. One time you stop eating tuna. If you eat it twice a month, eat it once a month. If you eat it twice a week, eat it once a week.
It's the halving method.
Yeah. It's insane. So it makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
The one paper towel. I am going to do that. There's no doubt.
All you have to do is swap it for Swedish dishcloths.
Okay.
Do you have those yet?
No, tell me about
they're
those.
So great. They're also compostable. But they're like these, they're made out of probably like a plant-based fiber. And they're super absorbent. You can throw them in the top rack of your dishwasher. It acts as a paper towel. Not for like a napkin sort of deal, but it's for cleaning, for everything. You can clean the kids, clean the toys. I clean my dog paws with it all the time. Countertops. I have a dishcloth for everything, a Swedish dishcloth.
So you want to hear
They're
something
awesome.
really interesting now that you say that? Again, my wife is Danish. Just inherently, my wife is sustainable.
Yes.
There is a cloth for everything.
Yes.
She never uses a paper towel.
Awesome.
Never ever.
Yeah.
There is always a dishcloth on the sink. So, and also my kids each one of them they're called quilts.
Okay.
It's a Danish word for napkin, where some parents would grab a paper towel or paper napkin and wipe their kid's face. My wife is like, no. They have their quilts. We got their little their rags for that.
I love that.
There's a rag for wiping everything down.
Yes.
I grew up in a place in New York where
it's disposable.
when you brush your teeth, you let the water just runs. You know what I mean? I was never mindful about just a little water for the toothpaste.
That's all you need. It's really all you need.
Donna would be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Wait, you just let the water run?"
Right.
And I'm like, she's like, "You take 10-minute showers?" I'm like, like, what am I, like there's no education. There's no education. Here in the United States of America, there's no education. I want to hear about your morning routine before we get too
morning
far.
routine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm the type of person that doesn't really have a routine. I wish I had more routine, but my job just varies so much every single day that I flow. I do have good habits. So
let's get into them.
Let's do the habits. Okay. Daily habit, the biggest one that has changed my life completely is alchemy. Do you know what that is?
Don't tell me.
You probably have had no other guest on your podcast like this, but alchemy is basically just the creation of new realities through new perspectives. And the way that you do that is, and this is such a game changer, you stay in ascension attitudes. So ascension attitudes are praise, love, gratitude, hope, and trust.
Okay.
Stay in those. The other element of alchemy is being in inner space, meaning like just being with yourself and tuning into yourself.
How do you do that?
It makes such a huge difference. So it's kind of like meditation in that you would probably get quiet. I like to get really quiet. I light a candle, Palo Santo, which now is not that great for the environment, but I still have some sticks left. So I do it for like very special inner space days.
Incense is not very great for the environment?
It's Palo Santo.
Palo Santo is not great.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It smells so good. So, and there's some really good healing benefits to it. So that, you get quiet, and a lot of people probably equate it to meditation, but meditation, you kind of clear your mind, which you do want to do that, but then you just start thinking with yourself, quiet with yourself. There's 627 senses within your body, inside your body. We have 7 senses on the outside. Everything that you are created in your outer space comes from inner space. There's 627 senses.
627 senses. So and do we even know how to express those, or do we know how to tap into those?
Well, when you're in inner space, you start visualizing things. You really think about things. You stay in the ascension attitude. So we have things that happen to us on a daily basis that are anywhere from unfair to horrible, And so you sit there and you really digest it, and you think about how can I be in praise, love, hope, gratitude, and trust.
Praise, love, hope,
gratitude,
and trust. I mean, those are 5 incredible places
ascension.
to be.
Ascension.
So when did you start? When did this become part of your life?
A few years ago, I actually really got into it when my cat died, and she was everything to me. And I had this friend who's actually a shaman, and she's a master of alchemy. And we started working together because I was just a wreck. I had Luna for 16 years, through everything. Yeah. So I called Steph, my shaman, and we just started really, really working closely together.
And so is this, Steph focuses on this specific way of existing. And so walk us through what it looks like for you. Are you just in the space all the time constantly?
No. Oh my God, no, especially not in New York.
Yeah, no. I'm like, man.
No, you're how do you do that?
That's zen. That's serious.
No, never. I mean, you walk outside my building and it's just horns and people screaming and, but that's another reason why inner space is so important. So, and I don't even do it every day. I wish I could, but I just don't have the time to. But when I feel like I really need it, I will take the time to do it. I will not go out on a Saturday night. I'll skip dinners. I'll be at home in inner space. And it's really just sitting there, my candle, my Palo Santo. I have elixirs that are alchemic elixirs that I'll listen to and just start visualizing. And you never know where it's going to go. But it really is, it's like what is the quote? It's your thoughts create your feelings create your beliefs create your actions create your results. It's all inner to outer. But so many people never go into inner space. And it's such a good connection with yourself, and that just in proxy radiates outward to other people and to the environment.
Is it different than meditation?
It is, because meditation, you clear your head and you don't really allow thoughts to come in. And it's this beautiful way of being in Zen. But in inner space, I'm thinking all the time. It's almost like an awake dream.
So you basically allow your thoughts to come, and then you follow them as far as you can.
And you're disavowing feelings that you don't want to feel. If you're angry, sad, guilty, whatever those feelings are that aren't in the ascension attitudes, you're disavowing those and you're sorting those out and really having to look at those and why you feel that way, disavowing it so that you can be in ascension attitude.
Are you taking notes on this, or are you just thinking about it?
You could take notes, yeah, but I just think I'm not really like a note taker. And what I'll do if I have a feeling that I need to disavow, I literally envision it and I like throw it up and then just like take out these machetes and like, and then it just floats away.
Yeah. And how long do these sessions normally last for you?
Like an hour.
Oh wow,
hour and a half maybe. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I do I do a lot of work up here.
Wow, that's like a serious commitment.
Yeah, but you're creating a better space for yourself, and then it's in proxy creating a better space for other people around you. You know, because you're in an ascension attitude and not in like a distorted emotion.
You know, I had a really interesting experience last night. It's funny, you know,
Do tell.
It's been the topic of conversation for me over the last probably 3-4 weeks, and I think it tends to happen to me when I'm in the wintertime in upstate New York, where it's cold and gray and it's tough. It's like I get to like this kind of like not unstable, but just like, oh God, I just needed to warm up. You know?
Yeah.
And so I joined this men's group. They meet on Thursday nights, and I've had some
upstate.
Oh
wow.
Yeah. And last night it was just 3 of us. And there's like a format. Sit around a fire. Amazing. But it was really, really interesting for me because we didn't say anything.
Oh, that's very difficult.
It was so weird, but it was so like I wanted to run away from it so bad because it was just sitting there with 2 other dudes. One guy I knew well, the other guy I really didn't know well. The other guy and I had like some bad vibes, you know, before, and so it was like kind of weird. But it was so interesting to not be meditating, but sitting in silence and thinking with other people around. It was like a very, very interesting experience. Nobody was saying anything.
Did you keep your eyes open?
Sometimes open, sometimes closed. You know, it was like I ended up, because we sat there for an hour and 45 minutes. And so we all checked in. We just, you know, you check in physically, emotionally, spiritually, minute, and then you get like a couple of minutes to say how you're feeling, and you can either dive into deep conversation, not about life, but about like what is happening for one person at that one moment. So it's not about talking about yourself, not about talking about a story that happened. It's like if somebody says something, you as an observer can help them deepen the experience by asking them a question about their stuff.
Yes.
And so we all went around and nobody asked any questions. And so we just sat there. And I was just like, this is fucking hard.
Was that planned, though, the silence?
No.
So that's like an even crazier element. That everyone was just like, okay, we're here.
Totally.
We're just going to literally be here for each other.
And it was really hard for me in like, I just felt like I wasn't getting anything out of it. Like, I really felt like I wasn't getting anything out of it, but that was like such a short-sighted thing. It just reminded me of this like inner space work where like you don't know where it's gonna go. And then at the end of it, when we were done, I was like, wait a second, like the only reason why you were kind of battling there was because it was a totally new experience.
Uncomfortable.
Totally uncomfortable. And when you think about like the human habit of needing to say, like needing to say something, like why do you have to like why can't you just appreciate? I mean, it was 46 degrees actually, which was really nice. It was in the middle of a huge open field, fire, big.
So you're outside,
big Amazing. Fire going.
Yeah.
Coyotes, like stars. I mean,
good.
You know, it was like I was like battling with it. It was so weird, but I think that I need to start doing more of that because meditation's a big part of my life. But you're right. Meditation is like letting your thoughts kind of come in and then just kind of like I kind of envision like a hand like squashing it and then throwing it back into the middle, you know. What other habits can we talk about?
Another thing that I teach a lot in sustainability is exactly what you said, is connecting with nature. Even if that means taking a tech-free lunch outside. So I can't always get outside during lunchtime, and I live in a high rise, and when I'm working from home, I will literally just eat my lunch and look out the window for 5 minutes, tech-free. You have an eagle eye view on life from the window. You see birds You see dogs running on rooftops. If you can get outside, you're going to see, like, you don't know what you're going to see, but it's always connecting with nature. And then that connection is actually a huge part of sustainability, because when you connect, you automatically care more. And then when you care, you help. So that, I think, is another like baseline of being a conscious consumer and a sustainable person, is just that connection with nature. So like in the morning when I walk my dogs, I walk him to Seaport or Battery Park, and there's water there, and no one's ever looking at the water. It's like, it blows my mind. I'm like, you guys, it's so beautiful. Look at it. So I'll take Leo, my dog, and like make him sit next to me for a few minutes and just look at the water and connect. And it really sets you up. It like really grounds you for the rest of your day. And when you connect with nature, you know how your body produces happiness hormones? So there's 4 happiness hormones. When you connect with nature, happiness hormones are manufactured in your body.
Dopamine, serotonin, what else?
Oxytocin.
I know, and there's
endorphin?
one more. Oh, maybe endorphin, yeah.
Yeah. So when they're made within your body, you automatically want to do more, whether that's doing more for the climate, doing more for yourself. It just automatically keeps you sustained in whatever you're doing. And all you have to do is like go touch a tree or look outside the window when you're eating lunch. All of those actions that are seemingly so small create these hormones that are self-sustaining for your happiness, for your peace.
We human beings have like stopped going outside.
Yes.
And forgetting about
Especially
the
now.
pandemic, you know, like I'm just talking about in general. I feel like we have become inside dwellers. We're consumed by everything.
Everything. And that's another thing that I am really diligent about, is what I consume, like the content and the tech that I consume. I'm a huge muter on Instagram. Huge muter. Like I mute anything that is like annoying to me or is just not inspiring me. I mute.
What do you do?
Oh my God. You go to you have to go. I think it's I need to look at a screen, but I think it's like the little button with the 3 dots and it's the follow button.
Okay.
I think it's follow. Let me double check before you unfollow somebody by accident. It's like the awkward, did you unfollow me? I'll double check for you. But it's one of those buttons and it'll ask like, do you want to unfollow? Do you want to mute? And then it asks if you would like to mute stories or posts. Wow. Most of the time mine are both. Like,
yeah, I mean, I have gotten to the point, thank gosh, where I create all of my social media content for all platforms.
Yeah.
But I do not post anything. I don't post anything at all. I will go in once or twice a day, depending on the day, and reply to comments and reply to DMs. But I promised myself no more posting. I have found somebody who's really incredible, who understands me really well, and that he's on my team, and he is so good at just like, it's freed up so much brain space for me, and I know that that's a privilege to be able to do, but it's essential for my career, right? That I have a presence on social media, and it was all consuming. It was killing me.
It really is.
It was killing me. I couldn't, because of the level of intensity and the level of attention it needed from me. It was destroying me. And not because I was like scrolling all day, but you know, we got to wrap up, but I want to tell one story that I think is so important to say. I love this story. It's an old Native American story about a grandfather sitting with his grandson and telling his grandson that, you know, there's a war going on inside of every human between 2 wolves. And
I also love this story.
Do you know the story? So, you know, the wolves, one wolf represents positivity, optimism, and happiness and service. And the other wolf represents negativity, anger, fear, and destruction.
Yes.
And the grandson looks up at the grandfather and says, so they're fighting, but like, who wins? And the grandfather says, whichever one you feed most.
That is so true, isn't it?
So true.
So true.
You know, and it applies to your business and your career. Like, if you're not mindful about what you're doing, all the things that we hear that sound like conspiracy theories or sound like they're so impossible, no more seafood in the ocean in 2058 or no more tuna, or, you know, like those things where we're like, no way. Oh, like the ozone, you know, like even though we just found out that the ozone.
It's back, baby.
by people making decisions, right?
Yes.
So like, you know, I think that we get posed with decisions all day long.
Every second.
Every second.
It's a decision.
You get to go right or left.
Yep.
Right? You get to go right or left. I think we can all agree that we understand the difference between right and left. I go right because it's right. I literally, I don't think about it as right or left in direction. I'm like, dude, I just know what the right decision is here. It just so happens that the right decision is also a direction.
Right.
Right? So like if I make the right decision, I'm going to go in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I'm so grateful that you came on the show because I think people need to start thinking way more about this stuff. Because if we all make little tiny changes, what you just said about paper towels, what you just said about like taking your food scraps and making food for your plants that they're going to thrive on. I'm going to do that. There's no doubt. I'm going to take some of the food from the chickens.
Good.
You know, we've got plants all over the house.
Yeah.
I think that those are super, super applicable things that anyone and everyone can do. I mean, even like the soup deal, right? Like if you, I mean, like, why go out and buy stock?
Right.
If you can just make veggie stock at home, and it's not literally you are basically pouring these vegetables or scraps into a pot with hot water.
Yes.
And letting it cook.
That's all you have to do. Exactly.
You're awesome. Where can people find you?
So I have a website, ecobabe.co. All of the social is at the ecobabe.
Okay.
Yes. And then I have a community. We're being acquired right now, so we've just changed the name, but it's an online conscious community. It's really rad. It's for conscious people.
Okay. Where
all
can we find that?
So that will be earth.co, but earth is spelled with a 3. So it's 3ARTH.
Awesome.
Earth.
And then you personally?
Yes.
Where can people find you, follow along in your journey?
Oh,
like
that's
on
the
social?
EcoBabe. At the
EcoBabe?
Yes.
Beautiful. You're
Thank
amazing.
You for having
I really,
me.
really appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
I love being able to give the audience tips, tricks, tools, rituals, routines that they can actually do.
Yes.
Right? Like telling somebody that like, you know, you do all sorts of red light therapy, meditation, sauna, cold plunge, you know, rolfing.
I wish.
But those are things that, like, a lot of people that I speak with, they do that, including myself.
Yeah.
But those are not, like, I was so excited to have you because I knew that we were going to come away with a few little things that can make a difference.
Yes. And yourself, too, because yourself goes to other people and it goes to the planet.
That's right.
It's all connected. It's harmony.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Creatures of Habit podcast. If you would be so kind and you enjoyed this, do us a favor. Share this episode with a friend. Share it with a partner. Share it with a business associate. Share it with your family. Share it with anyone who you think would appreciate listening to great content about being better on a daily basis. And if you want to go over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. I'd appreciate that one too. I love you. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you so much. Again, until the next one, y'all. Peace.